Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today we have got something special in store for you if you are gearing up for Microsoft Azure Data Fundamentals certification exam. In this video I will be covering the topics and questions that will help you pass the Azure Data Fundamentals certification exam. I have compiled a 50 practice questions and their answers to get you prepped and primed for the success on this certification exam. So, if you are ready to ace the Azure Data Fundamental exam and elevate your career to new heights, make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join our growing community of tech enthusiasts. So, let's gear up and dive into the success. Question number two is that a relation database is appropriate for scenarios that involve a high volume of, and the options are A. Transactional rights, B. Geographically distributed rights, C. Rights that have varying data structure, and D. Changes to relationship between entities. And the correct option is transactional rights. So the relational databases are optimized for writes. They are optimized for consistency and availability. Advantages of relational databases include simplicity, ease of data retrieval, data integrity, and flexibility. Question number three is that descriptive analysis tells us, and the options are A. What occurred in the past, B. What is most likely to occur in the future, C. What actions you can perform to affect outcome, and D. Why something occurred in the past. And the correct option is again what occurred in the past. Question number four is that for each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true, otherwise select no. And the options and the statements are: statement A is normalization involves eliminating relationships between database, yes or no. Statement B is normalizing a database reduces data integrity, again options are yes or no. And statement C is normalization improves data integrity. So the correct options for all the three databases are: the statement A is incorrect. So this statement is incorrect. The option is no. Statement B is correct. Normalizing a database reduces data integrity. Yes. And statement C is also correct. Normalization improves data integrity. Question number five is that an extract, transform, and load, that is ETL process requires. The options are A matching scheme in the data source and data target, B. A target data store powerful enough to transform data, C. Data that is fully processed before being loaded to the target data store, and D. That the data target be a relational database. And the correct option is C. Data that is fully processed before being loaded to the target data store. Question number six is that what happens in the batch processing, and the options are A. Data is always inserted one row at a time. Option B is data is processed in real time. Option C is latency in delivering data processing results is acceptable. And option D is processing can only execute serially. And the correct option is C. Latency in delivering data processing results is acceptable. Question number seven is that transcribing audio files is an example of which type of analytics? And the options are A. Cognitive, B. Descriptive, C. Predictive, and D. Prescriptive. And the correct option is cognitive. Question number eight is that a visualization that shows university's current student enrollment versus the maximum capacity is an example of which type of analytics? The options are again A. Cognitive, B. Descriptive, C. Predictive, and D. Prescriptive. And the correct option is the descriptive analytics. So these are the four types of analytics and their description. Descriptive tells us that what's happening right now. Diagnostic answers the question that why it's happening. Predictive answers the question that what will happen in the future. And prescriptive answers the question that what action should we take. Question number 9 is that you need to create an Azure storage account. Data in the account must replicate outside the Azure region automatically. Which two types of replication can you use for the storage account? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. And the options are option A, zone redundant storage, option B, read access geo redundant storage, option C, locally redundant storage, and option D, geo redundant storage. And the correct options are the read access geo redundant storage and geo redundant storage. So this is the description of these two correct options. You can pause the video and read the description if you like. Question number 10 is that which statement is an example of data manipulation language that is DML? And the options are A, revoke, B, disable, C, insert, and D, grant. And the correct option is insert. So the data manipulation language DML affects the information stored in the database. Use these statements to insert, update, and change the rows in the database. Common DML statements include delete, insert, select, update, and merge. Question number 11 is that you have a SQL query that combines customer data and order data. The query includes calculated counts. You need to create a database object that would allow other users to rerun the same SQL query. What should you create? The options are A, an index, B, a view, C, a scalar function, and D, a table. The correct option is a view. So the view is a virtual table whose contents are defined by a query. A view acts as a filter on the underlying table reference in the view. The query that defines the view can be from one or more tables or from other views in the current or other databases. Question number 12 is that a key value data store is optimized for. The options are A, transactions, B, table joins, C, simple lookups, and D, enforcing constraints. And the correct option is simple lookups. So the key value store associates each data value with a unique key. Most key value stores only support simple query, insert, and delete operations. To modify a value either partially or completely, an application must override the existing data for the entire value. In most implementations, reading or writing a single value is an atomic operation. Question number 13 is that what are two characteristics of real-time data processing? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. The options are A, data is processed periodically, B, low latency is expected, C, high latency is acceptable, and D, data is processed as it is created. The correct option is for the real-time data processing, low latency is expected and data is processed as it is created. So the real-time processing deals with streams of data that are captured in real time and processed with minimal latency to generate real-time or near real-time reports or automated responses. Question number 14 is that which statement is an example of data manipulation or DML language? And the options are A, revoke, B, disable, C, create, and D, update. And the correct option is already bold out. It is the update. So update is the type or example of DML statement. So again, DML basically affects the information stored in the database. Use these statements to insert, update, and change the rows in the database. Example of the DML include delete, insert, select, and update. Question number 15 is that a visualization that illustrates a university's current student enrollment per department is an example of which type of analytics? And the options are A. Descriptive, B. Predictive, C. Cognitive, and D. Prescriptive. And the correct option is the descriptive analytics. Number 16 is that you need to create an Azure resource to store data in Azure table storage. Which command should you run? And the options are option A, AZ storage share create, option B, AZ storage account create, option C, AZ Cosmo DB create, and option D, AZ storage container create. And the correct command is AZ storage account create. Question number 17 is that the Azure Cosmo DB API, what is the name of API that enables this use of select statement to retrieve document from Azure Cosmo DB? The options are A. Gremlin, B. Core SQL, C. MongoDB, and D. Table. And the correct option is Core SQL. So the Azure Cosmo DB SQL API accounts provide support for querying items using the SQL syntax. Question number 18 is that you need to modify a view in a relational database by adding a new column. Which statement should you use? Options are A. Merge, B. Alter, C. Insert, and D. Update. The correct option is C. Alter. Question number 19 is that PostgreSQL on Azure VMs is an example of. The options are A. Infrastructure as a service, IaaS, B. Platform as a service, PaaS, and C. Software as a service, SaaS. And the correct option is the software as a service. Question number 20 is that Azure database for PostgreSQL is an example of. Again, we have the three options of the cloud infrastructure, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. And the correct option is this time platform as a service. So when a cloud provider gives you a ready-made database that you can use, or it gives you a development platform, then this is an example of PaaS. And if you want to deploy your own database, then you need infrastructure as a service. Question number 21 is that which Azure storage solution provides native support for POSIX compliant access control lists? And the options are A. Azure Table Storage, B. Azure Data Lake Storage, C. Azure Queue Storage, and D. Azure Files. And the correct option is Azure Data Lake Storage. Question number 22 is that relational database is stored in the form of. Options are A. Hierarchical folder structure, B. A file system as unstructured data, C. A tabular form of rows and columns, and D. Comma separated value CSV files. And the correct option is that a relational database is stored in the form of rows and columns. Question number 23 is that a block of code that runs in the database is called. Options are A. Index, B. A view, C. A table, and D. A stored procedure. And the correct option is a stored procedure. Question number 24 is that what type of database is Azure database for PostgreSQL? The options are A. Platform as a service, B. Infrastructure as a service, C. Microsoft SQL Server, and D. On-premises. And the correct option is again platform as a service or PaaS. Question number 25 is that which storage solution supports access control lists at the file and folder level? The options are A. Azure Data Lake Storage, B. Azure Queue Storage, C. Azure Blob Storage, and D. Azure Cosmo DB. And the correct option is Azure Data Lake Storage. So Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 implements an access control model that supports both Azure role-based access control, that is Azure RBAC, and POSIX-like access control list. Question number 26 is that what is the characteristic of batch processing? And the options are A, the data ingested during batch processing must be processed as soon as data is received. B, large dataset must be split into batches of less than 1 GB before the data can be processed. C, there is a noticeable time delay between ingesting data and obtaining the data processing results. And D, batch processing can only process data that is structured. And the correct option is there is a noticeable time delay between ingesting data and obtaining the data processing results. Question number 27 is that in an SQL statement are examples of aggregate functions. So these are some SQL statements. So what are the example of aggregate function? The options are A, max and min, B, join and merge, C, group by and order by, and D, from and where. And the correct options are maximum and minimum, or max and min are the example of aggregate function of SQL statements. So the aggregate function basically performs a calculation on a set of values and return a single value. The following are some of the aggregate functions. That the statement also include the max and min. Other include count, count week, average, checksum, approx, count, distinct, etc. Question number 28 is that in a relational database, each row in a table has, and the options are a different set of columns, B, same set of columns, C, a key value pair, and D, unstructured data. And the correct option is same set of columns. Question number 21 is that what natively supports the analysis of relationships between entities? And the options are A, key value stores, B, graph databases, C, document databases, and D, column family databases. And the correct option is the graph databases. So the graph database basically stores two types of information, nodes and edges. Edges specify relationship between nodes. Nodes and edges can have properties that provide information about that node or edge, similar to columns in a table. Edges can also have a the can also have a direction indicating the nature of relationship. A key value data store is optimized for, the options are A, table joins, B, simple lookup, and C, enforcing constraints. And the correct option is simple lookup. So the key value data store or database is basically optimized for simple lookup. Question number 31 is that varying fields for each entity in a JSON document is an example of what? The options are A, structured data, B, semi-structured data, C, relational data, and D, unstructured data. The correct option is semi-structured data. JSON document is an example of what? Again, we have the options A, graph data, B, semi-structured data, C, relational data, and D, unstructured data. And the correct option is again, so the JSON document is an example of semi-structured data. Question number 33 is that which property of a transactional workload guarantees that each transaction is treated as a single unit that either succeeds completely or fails completely? And the options are A, atomicity, B. Isolation, C. Durability, and D. Consistency. And the correct option is atomicity. So, the purpose of making transaction atomic is to prevent different transactions from interfering with one another. This can only happen if more than one user process is trying to access the database at the same time as when a server allows several clients to use it concurrently. The simplest way to enforce atomicity is for the DBMS to refuse to start any transaction until previous one has committed. Question number 34 is that which type of database contains nodes and edges? The options are A graph, B key value, C columnar, and D time series. And the correct option is the graph. So again, the graph databases contains two type of information, nodes and edges. And this is a graphical representation of a graph database. Here we can see that these are basically the nodes and the edges basically shows the direction. Question number 35 is that what is responsible for identifying which business rules must be applied to the data of a company? The options are A. Data analyst, B. Data scientist, and C. Data engineer. And the correct option is data analyst. Question number 36 that your company needs to implement a relational database in Azure. The solution must minimize ongoing maintenance. What Azure service should you use? The options are A. Azure HD Insight, B. Azure SQL Database, C. Azure Cosmo DB, and D. SQL Server on Azure Virtual Machines. And the correct option is Azure SQL Database. Question number 37 is that you are writing a set of SQL queries that administrator will use to troubleshoot an Azure SQL database. You need to embed document and query result into an SQL notebook. What should you use? Options are A. Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, B. Azure Data Studio, C. Azure CLI, and D. Azure PowerShell. And the correct option is Azure Data Studio. Question number 38 is that you have an e-commerce application that reads and writes data to an Azure SQL database. What type of processing does the application use? Options are A. Stream processing, B. Batch processing, C. Online analytical processing, and D. Online transaction processing. And the correct option is online transaction processing. So, OLTP or online transaction processing is designed to serve as a persistent data store for business or front-end application. OLTP administers day-to-day transaction of an organization. Question number 39 is that when can you use an Azure Resource Manager template? And the options are A, to automate the creation of an interdependent group of Azure resources in a repeatable way. B. To apply Azure policies for multi-tenant deployment. C. To provision Azure descriptions. And D. To control which services and feature administrators and developers can deploy from the Azure portal. And the correct option is to automate the creation of an interdependent group of Azure resources in a repeatable way. And this is the sorry, let me get back. So this is the explanation. You can pause and read the explanation if you want. Question number 40 is that you have an Azure SQL database that you access directly from the internet. You recently changed the public IP address of your computer. After changing the IP address, you can no longer access the database. You can connect to other resources in Azure. What is the possible cause of the issue? And the options are A. Role-based access control, B. Dynamic host configuration protocol DHCP, C. DNS, and D. Database level firewall. And the correct option is the database level firewall. Again, you can read the explanation if you want. Question number 41 is that which command line tool can you use to query Azure SQL database? Options are A. SQL CMD, B. BCP, C. AZ Data, and D. Azure CLI. And the correct option is SQL CMD or SQL command. The SQL CMD utility lets you enter, transact SQL statements, system procedure, and script file at the command prompt. Question number 42 is that which statement is an example of data definition language or DDL? And the options are A. Select, B. Join, C. Update, and D. Create. The correct option is the create. So the create statement is the an example of DDL or data definition language. So the data definition language DDL statements define data structures. Use these statements to create, alter, or drop data structure in a database. These statements include alter, collations, create, drop, all the way up to insert. Question number 43 is that when you create an Azure SQL database, which account can always connect to the database? The options are A, the Azure Active Directory account that created the database, B, the server admin login account of the logical server, C, the Azure Active Directory administrator account, and D, the SA account. And the correct option is the server admin account of the logical server. Question number 44 is that which statement is an example of data definition language? Again, the options are A. Select, B. Insert, C. Delete, and D. Drop. And the correct option is drop. Again, these all are the example of DDL or data definition language statements. Question number 45 is that a team of developers has computers that run Windows 10 and Ubuntu desktop. The developers need to connect to and query an Azure SQL database from each of these computers. The developers require code assistant features such as IntelliSense. What should the developers use? Options are A. SQL CMD, B. Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, C. Azure Data Studio, and D. Azure Data Explorer. And the correct option is the Azure Data Studio. So the Azure Data Studio is basically a cross-platform database tool for data professionals who use on-premises and cloud data platform on Windows, macOS, and Linux. Azure Data Studio offers a modern editor experience with IntelliSense, code snippets, source control integration, and an integrative terminal. Question number 46 is that you need to ensure that users use multi-factor authentication when connected to Azure SQL database. Which type of authentication should you use? Options are A. Service principal authentication, B. Azure Active Directory authentication, C. SQL authentication, and D. Certificate authentication. And the correct option is the Azure Active Directory authentication. Question number 47 is that what is a benefit of hosting a database on Azure SQL managed instance as compared to an Azure SQL database? The options are A. Built-in high availability, B. Native support for cross database queries and transactions, C. System initiated automatic backups, D. Support for encryption at rest. The correct option is native support for cross-database queries and transactions. Question 48 is that by default, each Azure SQL database is protected by options are A. Azure Firewall, B. A server level firewall, C, Azure front door, and D, a network security group. The correct option is a server level firewall. Question number 49 is that you need to design and model a database by using a graphical tool that supports project-oriented offline database development. What should you use? And the options are A. Microsoft SQL Server Data Tools, B. Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, C. Azure Databricks, and D. Azure Data Studio. And the correct option is Microsoft SQL Server Data Tools. Question number 50 is that you have a transactional application that stores data in an Azure SQL managed instance. What should you implement? When should you implement a read-only database replica? Option are A. You need to generate reports without affecting the transactional workload. B. You need to audit the transactional application. C. You need to implement high availability in the event of a regional outage. And D, you need to improve the recovery point objective. And the correct option is you need to generate reports without affecting the transactional workload. So that's all for today. Please subscribe and stay tuned for the next video on the topic. Thank you and bye.